Hello and welcome to the Week 2 Pick'em Picks. And as always, we're your hosts, Kevin Osborne and Ryan Mowry, in conjunction with Southwestern Lawn and Landscaping, located in the beautiful Blacksburg, Virginia, presenting college football picks as solid as the Blue Ridge Mountains themselves. How you doing today, Kevin?
Doing good. Happy to be here. Great win for the Hokies this weekend, of
Yeah, how about
course.
that?
We got that pick locked and loaded, and I think it
Hmm.
helped the team. Gave them the confidence they needed to take on Mac Brown and kind of derail that hype train. So we'll
Yeah,
get right into the agenda. We're going to go over the Week 1 games. We'll be humbled by some of our picks that didn't work out so well, but we still overall did pretty solid. Then we'll go over the Week 2 games. And as always, we'll give you our breakdown and professional picks, and then we'll wrap things up.
yeah. And today on our agenda page, we went with bird-themed mascots.
Mhm.
So as you can see there, three of the most powerful birds in college football. We decided not to include the Louisville Cardinal after their disappointing performance against Ole Miss. That was absolutely atrocious showing for the ACC, Kevin, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
That was bad.
However, we picked it to go that way, so
Yep, that's all that matters.
that is all that matters. All right.
So let's go through this first week here. Boise State UCF. This was a hell of a game, wasn't it? I mean,
Mhm.
UCF was down by three scores, made the big comeback in the second half. UCF took it. Minnesota looked like a good ball team. They played Ohio State close, but Ohio State, as we predicted, would come out on top there. Virginia Tech, UNC, that was, I think, the big talker of the week as far as upsets goes. Two notable team upsets. There were some bigger, Montana, Washington, bigger disparity upsets there. But, Virginia Tech, UNC, that was a great win for the Hokies. You were at that game.
Yep.
Yeah, Michigan State, Northwestern. We predicted Michigan State to win, but boy, I don't think we predicted them to look that good. They
Yeah.
looked pretty good.
And going into day two, our picks were looking really good as well.
Mhm.
We're 4 for 4 with two upsets picked, but then as you'll see, as noted in red, I think we got a little fatigued in our picks. So we're only going with 8 games this week, but still, I think a respectable 8-5 record for our first week of picks. Um, there's some crazy games. I don't think many people expected Clemson and Georgia to go the way it went. I don't think many people expected Clemson and North Carolina to combine for 13 total points. Tough for the ACC, but I think good for college football. That was an exciting game. UCLA kind of came out of nowhere, upset LSU. That was not something
Yeah, not happy about Coach O's comment, Kevin. Did you see that?
I did not.
Oh yeah, he walked into the game and a UCLA player was heckling him, and he said, "Come down here with your sissy blue shirt."
Hmm.
UCLA actually made it their Twitter banner, sissy blue.
Ooh,
Yeah, which is kind
that's
of funny. I mean, UCLA they beat LSU. Good for them. We really didn't predict that one. But I mean, I think our issue is that they're playing too many games on Saturday. If they just stop playing games on Saturday, we'd be undefeated.
yeah. I think if they moving forward, there were only Thursday and Friday games, you'd be looking at some top talent in the pick'em
Yeah, yeah, we'd be the
space.
top pick 'em, but last ESPN still exists as a game on Saturday. Sounds good to me.
Yep. All
So
right. So turning the page to week 2, we got coaches across the range of emotions here. Coach O, aside from taking that L last week and all of last season, still undefeated. Mac Brown, love that we did that to him on Friday.
yeah,
And then Nick Saban, I think, celebrating a blowout victory over an SEC team in that picture.
you know what I found out this week, Kevin? I didn't know that there were football teams sponsored by Jordan. UCLA sponsored by the Jordan brand, and UNC. They're both of their football teams have the Jordan logo on their
Interesting.
jersey. It's kind of cool,
I
isn't it?
imagine basketball teams would be
Yeah.
sponsored.
I mean, I think that's probably where it stems from because of the
Yeah,
blue chip program. But I mean, the football team still wears them too, which I think is kind of funny.
that is pretty cool. So looking at the games this week, there's really, I would say, only kind of two marquee matchups, and that's Oregon at Ohio State and then Iowa at Iowa State. But we're going to be picking some other ones. Top five: Texas A&M at Colorado, Appalachian State, which is a decent upset machine sometimes, is going to Miami. We got Texas, Arkansas. Texas is ranked top 15, I believe. Washington at Michigan was supposed to be a a much more anticipated matchup until Washington kind of came out flat last week.
Montana, yeah. And we've got the Mormon Bowl, and then we've got the West Bowl out in California. So pretty exciting week of games. Kevin, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, so we'll get right started with number 12, Oregon at Ohio State. Ohio State's a pretty solid money line favorite. We're picking them with high confidence. I think, one thing to take away from their game against Minnesota, which was close, their new quarterback CJ Stroud got a lot of playing time. If it was a blowout, he probably would have gone out early. So I think that might actually be good for his development and confidence kind of going into this a lot more challenging game. The Oregon quarterback, now he was the Boston College starting quarterback until just recently. So we'll see. Ohio State's never lost to Oregon. They beat them in 2010, 2015. And so that is why we are picking Ohio State with high confidence.
Great. Now we're looking at Texas A&M, Colorado. This is going to be another high confidence game. A&M obviously looks strong against their pretty weak opponent. Colorado looks strong as well, but this is just a matchup of two different teams here. A&M versus Colorado. This is kind of a no-brainer. In 2020, the only loss for Texas A&M came from Alabama. That's very strong. A 9-1 season. They beat UNC as well. A&M's quarterback Haynes King had a good game. Aside from the 3 interceptions, that's pretty tough actually. But otherwise, stats look pretty comfortable. I'm sure there's just a little bit of rust there. A&M rushed for 303 yards, very impressive. Let's see how Colorado responds to that, Kevin.
Yeah, I think they, it was North Colorado, their opponent, which I wouldn't call stellar, but they held them to only 20 yards on the ground. I think they got a fair amount of sacks too, and that kind of contributed to that total. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see. We think Texas A&M is going to cover. Got them with high confidence. So on to the next one. I guess this is the other top 10 matchup, or I guess anticipated matchup, and it's Iowa at Iowa State. Last week we underestimated Iowa pretty severely. I mean, they came out and just beat the brakes off of Indiana. It was an impressive win, catapulted them into the top 10. We're not going to make the same mistake twice. We're putting money on Iowa here. Medium confidence. This is technically an upset based on the money line and the rankings. And we'll see how Iowa State can kind of rebound after their scare against Northern Iowa. They struggled to convert on third down, and Iowa held Indiana to a pretty impressive 1 out of 3 third down conversion rate. So this is a rivalry game as well, cross-conference rivalry game, which can sometimes be even more exciting. Anything to add on this one?
Not much other than the Corn Bowl. Looking forward to it.
Yep.
Flyover Bowl, either one.
Yes, that is.
Take
this one.
I'm sorry to make fun of the state of Iowa there. I'm sure it's a beautiful state, but so Appalachian State, Miami. Moving on, Miami had an atrocious showing against Alabama last week, but I honestly don't blame them. That Alabama team looked just as good as last year. They definitely reloaded, but we're here to talk about Miami now. I think this is a good chance for them to rebound. Appalachian State's not a bad team. I mean, they're never exactly a bad team. They beat ECU pretty handily in the first of 3 Dukes-Mayo matchups. Do you know that Dukes-Mayo had 3 matchups? There was the Appalachian State, ECU. There's one other I can't remember. They also had obvious Clemson, Georgia, but this was also a Dukes-Mayo matchup.
They had the Dukes-Mayo Bowl last year. I think Wake Forest lost in that one.
Yeah. Dukes-Mayo is really increasing their stake in college football. But anyways, App State is a good-looking team. 7 p.m. kickoff, which is kind of surprising, but I think this is going to be a good game. Great chance for Miami to bounce back if they want to have a productive season and come out as a real contender in the ACC. This is a must-win game for Miami. Absolutely. And then moving on to the next week, we're looking at Texas versus Arkansas. We had some discussion about this game, didn't we, Kevin?
Yep. I think Arkansas. So their record last year at 3-7. Uh, Not great, but they covered the spread 7 times to 3, and I think that kind of indicates we looked at some of their close games that they had. Losing by 2 to Missouri, they played LSU close. I think this is a team that might make this game more competitive than some would assume. They're returning a lot of that team again, but Texas quarterback, Hudson Card, I think that yesterday was his first start. And he played pretty well, leading the offense to 38 points. So we're going to go Texas. Medium confidence though, because I think Arkansas might make it competitive, especially in the first half. Um, anything else to add on this one?
No, not much for me. Texas looked solid last week against a good Louisiana team. I don't think Louisiana Lafayette was bad by any means, but Texas just like the better ball team. So I don't think they're gonna have a problem with Arkansas. But Arkansas shouldn't be discounted. I don't think they're a bad team either. This is just a matter of one, better team facing, an already decent team.
Yeah,
Kind of similar to Miami, Appalachian State, if you ask
I think that's a good comparison.
me.
So this Washington, Michigan, we know Washington really dropped the ball against Montana last week. However, we are picking them to win in an upset. We got low confidence, but that's still confidence in this pick. Um, you know, Big money underdog, which I think makes it even more kind of enticing to pick. Michigan really did not play good last year. They got a decent victory over a Western Michigan team in week 1. But if like last year, they beat Minnesota in week 1, and then they didn't win another game except for Rutgers in 3 overtimes. So then on the other hand, Washington's only loss last year came at the hands of Stanford by 5 points. Yeah, I think this might be as much a gut feeling as it is looking deep into the stats, but I convinced Ryan to go with Washington on this one. So
You did, yeah. You did took my arm a little bit.
yeah, we will see. Join us next week to see if we end up with egg on our face for this one.
Yeah, and so Utah, BYU, the Mormon Bowl. Salt Lake City is going to be on their toes for this one. These two schools are actually very close. And what I didn't know was that Utah Weber State last week was also a big Utah Salt Lake City matchup as well. But on to this game, we have Utah winning with medium confidence. While BYU beat Arizona last week, they've really still their team was scrapped over the offseason. Utah is a good-looking team. They had no problem with Weber State. Dating back to last year, Utah is on that 4-game win streak. Obviously BYU had that monster season last year, but we really still think that Utah's QB Charlie Brewer, 4-year starter at Baylor. We think Utah is the more talented team at this point. Even if they're not the more talented team, they have a lot of chemistry at this point. Kevin, anything else?
Yeah, I think BYU's team last year, it can't be understated how well they played, but they lost most of the team. They had a close game against Arizona last week, and I would not call Arizona a good team. Unfortunately for the Wildcats, they lost their last game of last season 70-7 against their in-state rivals, Arizona State. So,
Hmm.
seeing that score, I think that kind of just solidifies that BYU's in a rebuilding year. All right, and the last game we have slated here, I believe it's the last one, Stanford at USC, that California rivalry game. We're picking USC with high confidence. Stanford had a pretty disappointing week 1 for their fans, I would say, after ending last season on a 4-game win streak. Seemed like not the game to drop to kind of a Kansas State team that's like above average, but still not great. And meanwhile, USC's riding the momentum after their win in week 1. And they had a pretty solid season last year. They came up short in the Pac-12 championship against Oregon. But I think Stanford's inexperienced quarterback and USC's just better recruits. I think that's going to make the difference, and USC will win with high confidence.
Yeah, and it is a rivalry game, so that is good to state. But I think there's no problem in picking USC in this game. I am going to be interested to see what USC UCLA turns out to be though. UCLA looked promising last week, so I know Stanford's usually in that discussion between the three, but I don't think they're going to be much this year.
It'll be interesting to see who the team to beat in the Pac-12 is going to be. You know, maybe Washington if they can bounce back, but
Mm-hmm.
probably not. Okay, so our conclusion here, we've got some of our
Favorite
notable
quarterbacks.
favorite quarterback. Well, we got our favorite quarterback, maybe the Braxton Burmeister, and then some interesting quarterbacks, I guess. That's Bryce Young in the bottom left. He's probably going to win the Heisman.
Yeah, he looked good last week. Wow, they beat the hell out of a team to the right,
Yeah,
Miami, man. They were really good. I mean, they're the same, pretty much same talent level as they were last year. So
yeah, they fully
roll tide, I
reloaded.
guess.
It'll be, I guess time will tell if that win was very impressive for Alabama, or I think there's a possibility Miami could kind of have a subpar season.
Hmm.
We'll see how they handle that kind of demoralizing loss to an always talented Alabama team. But lock in the picks. I think we're going to do even better this week. If we get an 8-0 one in there, that'd be fantastic. Anything else, Ryan?
No, not much for me other than y'all better lock it in this week. Last week was good, 8-5. We're looking to capitalize on a better week. As long as they stop playing games on Saturday, we'll be undefeated.
Exactly. All right. Thanks everyone for joining.